Hi, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to explore faith and loss. How does one follow Jesus during the tragic moments in our lives? When your world is falling apart, how do you keep it together? Madison Watson is a strong young woman who faced a tragic loss. She and her husband Reese weathered that storm, stayed true to each other, and are now rebuilding their family. Here's my conversation with Madison Watson.
Yeah.
So how long have you and Reese been together now? Is it 11 years?
So we've been together 11, married 9. This June, we celebrated our 9th anniversary.
Yeah.
So we met in 2009, I guess, 2008, somewhere around there. 9.
So how'd you meet? I love these. My wife and I love these stories. How did y'all meet?
So we actually met. I like to tell it. Reese really doesn't care for the story.
Well, you get to tell it, so do it how you want.
My freshman year in college, I just became good friends with a graduate professor. She was just this bubbly person. I came in and I sat in the front because it was like my first year. So we just talked and became friends, and she was a graduate professor. So we actually lived together my sophomore year. Like, we became great friends. I started going to church with her where she was already going, just a great woman of God. And we just hit it off. So Tia taught it was this like small class. There were like 12 to 15 people in it. And it was this class that would go out and do these presentations to classes over, it could be like, really, it was like about health stuff, sexual stuff, like, basically being smart. And so you had to be picked for this class. Well, Tia asked me if I wanted to be in it, and she ended up not even being the teacher my sophomore year.
Oh, wow.
But somebody else was the teacher, but there were like 12 of us in there, and Reese was the only guy. So I asked Tia, I was like, hey, are there like any guys in this class? And she's like, well, there's one, but he's kind of nerdy and he's really not your type. And I was like, oh, okay. Thinking like I would have some like jock, like football player, basketball player, someone that rodeoed, like someone country,
sure,
not someone city.
Right.
And Reese is a city boy.
Right.
So me and Reese and this other girl just became really good friends. Like, all three of us, we just hung out all the time.
Right.
And she had a boyfriend, but Reese didn't know. So he was like pursuing her, and we were all friends.
Oh my.
And then, but we were really good friends. And then it just kind of happened. And then that was it. After we were friends for a while, we started dating. And I feel like it's that cliche, like, when you know, but within a couple months, like, we knew that we would get married. Like, we knew that, that was so.
Right.
Anyways, it's just funny because he's like, I don't think that's how the story went. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Pretty sure that's how it went.
Yeah. So that's how we met.
City and country come together.
Yeah.
City mouse and country mouse. How did that? Were there some bumpy moments?
Well, it's actually been okay. I think sometimes when you get married, you either want things for your children, like the lifestyle that your spouse had, or like you don't. And it's not that I like the city life or don't like the city life, but like, that's just how he grew up. But I wanted my kids, our kids, to be able to, if they want to be able to rodeo and have the lifestyle that I did growing up,
right,
I want to be able to give it to them. And luckily Reese feels the same way. Like, and he's from Altus, so it's a small town, but not as small as Comanche.
Right.
Like, it's,
but
there's just a difference in growing up in a small town where everybody knows you. There's pros and cons, so it's actually good. We just this summer moved back to Comanche. So, we live in a travel trailer right now.
Yeah, understand that. Been there.
While we get ready to build a house.
Yeah.
So it's interesting right now, to say the least.
So risk management, this is what you're doing today.
Yeah, so like insurance agent, risk management, it's basically we just like to say like helping people manage everyday risk, whether that's
Right?
auto insurance, home, life, a little bit of health, but our primary things are auto, home, and life.
Okay. So how long have you been doing that? Is that a degree you have or a job you have?
It's actually nothing related to my degree. I went to college for 4 years and got a degree, and now I work not in the field. It's actually when I started here August of 2013, and so I just hit 7 years. And when I started, I was in the medical field trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in the medical field because that's the route I went, and I decided I didn't. So I applied for this job, not knowing anything about the industry, and really just felt like God put me at the right place at the right time. Like my
Okay.
boss is great. He's incredible. And it, like, it's been good. I mean, I've been here, this is 7 years. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And I enjoy what I do. Like I'm good at it, but like I really enjoy what I do. So
Do you enjoy the drive from Comanche?
not, not every day. Right now I'm working, I get to work 2 days from home.
Okay.
So I'm not driving back and forth every day.
Right.
But 3 days a week I do drive back and forth. It actually hasn't been terrible. It's about right at an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30, just kind of depending. And I've been listening to a book.
Sure.
So I mean I'm in a car, 3 hours a day.
Right.
So yeah. So it hasn't been awful. It's just a long day. I leave at 7 and I'm home by 7. So I work 8:30 to 5:30. So that's just kind of,
Right.
so it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
terrible. Yeah.
Not terrible.
It could be worse.
True. It was a better drive when you lived in the city.
Yeah, it was an easier drive when I lived in the city. It still took, even though we didn't live far from here, it still took longer. Like not longer than it takes now.
Right. You're still a
Longer than it
30-minute
should
commute.
have. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, it works.
Sure.
We're making it work right now. So
Absolutely. Now, and we'll get to some more details about Reese and
yeah.
and the recovery. But you all own a handyman business together, if I understand that right.
Yeah. So this May was 2 years.
Wow.
Reese he's a physical therapist assistant, and he decided that he wanted to do his own business. And
Sure.
so in the beginning it was like, okay, we'll do it part-time. And it kind of, within a few months, it was like, if we're going to do this, we really feel like we should kind of go all in. I guess. So he started his own renovation and handyman business. And honestly, we've been super fortunate. Everything was going well. He was busy all the time, and it's
Right.
just him. So no employees. It's just, we own this business and he does it. And then I do this, and that's kind of, when I need to help him do stuff, or if I need to do stuff, I do. But I help with the more, I guess you could say, marketing side of things. But yeah, I mean, it's just him, just a one man show. And he really enjoys it, and he's good at what he does. Our personalities are different. So like, I'm not really patient, and he is, and he's a little bit more, I don't know. It's like things that need to be exact. Like that's his thing, stuff like that. So it works well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I know, and we'll get to it in a few minutes about the wreck that y'all were in. Is he back to work? Is he good, or is it still struggles?
He's not back at work yet.
Okay.
So it's been a little over 8 months.
Wow.
He's getting better.
Okay.
It's just like, he just had like a full reconstructive surgery on his ankle. And so like the largest bone in your ankle was shattered. So he's got a plate and 9 screws. And so and as anticipated, we knew it would be about a 2-year recovery.
Really? 2 years?
Yeah. It could be like a full 2 years before he's back to like a new 100%, if that makes sense.
Whatever the new 100 is.
Yeah, so he does do, like, he's trying to do some stuff. He still goes to PT. He's right now actually he's got a couple of people he's talking to, so he's trying to get to the point where he can start doing stuff. It's just this fine line of what can he do and how much he can tolerate, because it's still really hard for him to be on his feet for an extended period of time.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, his ankle it's just different. So
Sure.
he's just got to figure out a way to I guess make it a new normal. So
Right.
he's trying. It's just not quite. I mean, not quite as fast as we would like it to be. But
of course.
that's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. There's literally nothing we can
That's
do
the impatient part of you that.
Yes. But yeah. And I say that, but I am like, I told him, 3 months ago, like,
yeah,
if it takes all year, like, it takes all year. Like, we literally cannot do anything about it. We could not have changed what happened. And so this is where we're at, and we'll make it work. Like,
absolutely.
We'll just make it work.
So on top of all that, you do something that's called Roden and Field.
Yep. So Roden and Fields, and that it's just
what is? I'm a guy. So what is this? What is?
It's skincare. It's like face wash and things.
Okay.
So the two ladies that started, they're in California. They used to have, gosh, why can't I think of the name? Anyway, they used to have a business and sold it and started Rodan and Fields, but it's basically like, it's just clinically proven, like, to work. It's just it's like face wash, moisturizer. I mean, it's skincare, not makeup per se, but like skincare. So
right.
So I just do that on the side as some extra money.
Because you don't need any sleep.
No. Yeah. I mean, why not do something else?
Yeah. So just add one more thing,
Yeah. I kind of am a busy, I don't know. I like to stay busy, and I'd like to think I could do many things, as I'm finding out that it's not always that easy.
Wife, business owner, mother of three, sleep. We'll get that later.
Yeah, it just comes in few and far between sometimes. But I do get it.
Sleep, mama needs sleep.
Yeah. And I require sleep, like, which is the crazy thing. But I feel like we're busy all the time, and part of it's probably self-inflicted. Like, I don't know. I like to stay busy, so it's kind of part of it. Yeah.
So tell me about your oldest, the cutie pie.
Yeah, Emerson. So
I remember when she was born. I saw it all on Facebook.
Yeah. She turned 6 in April.
Gosh.
She started last year. We had her like in a private school, and she went to kindergarten. So this is her first year of public school. And
COVID. Woo, yay.
Yeah, and COVID. So she's in T1, and she's at Comanche. So not only is it like COVID, but it's a new school, really a new everything.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't, like, everything's new. Like, everybody, the majority of people know me, but because that's the same school I went to.
Sure.
Which she thinks is great.
They're all like, "Oh, this is Madison's daughter. Wait, let me pull my notes."
Yeah, well, and I think too, they all anticipated her being a little bit more outgoing, like me.
Yeah.
And she's a little bit quieter, like Reese.
Like
mm-hmm. And shy, and so it's been interesting, like, to hear them say, "Well, I thought I was like gonna have a little bit more like you, but I guess she's like her dad." And I'm like, yeah. But she actually is enjoying it. It took a couple weeks to adjust, but she likes it. My mom takes her every day, and then really, like, Reese could take her, or even I could, but she's like, "No, I'm riding with Don. Like, and so we get her up, we get her ready. She goes with my mom every day, and then after school they walk her over to my mom's classroom. And 90% of the time, my mom brings her home, but
yeah, and it's not like we're putting grandma out either. Don kind of likes this too.
My mom doesn't mind, but Emerson's like, I'm like, "Can I take you today?" No. And I'm like, what do you?
Screw up my routine? No, I got this.
Yeah, they've got their thing and their routine, and routine's good for her, but she's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, okay, I'll be home whenever you get home. But
Right.
yeah. So she's enjoying it. It's going well.
And then the boy came along.
Yeah, and then Elliott, he'll be 3 this month, on the 25th, and so it's just totally different, like two polar opposite kids. And I don't know if it's mainly because he's a boy and she's a girl, but like he's like Tasmanian devil all the time, and he's 100 miles an hour, and he is very outgoing. He's not Emerson's not outgoing, but like he would go with a stranger. Like he'll talk to people.
Yeah.
Like he'll tell people hi and bye in a store, even at this age, and there's no way Emerson would have. So we have Meet the Teacher tonight. He's going to start like a little 3 days at church in Duncan, like preschool.
Okay.
3 days a week next week. Because we're in hopes. Our thing was like, well, maybe Reese can start working, and he wouldn't be able to handle 5 days, but Elliott needs something. He needs some social.
He needs something to do.
He needs some people that he needs. He's like me, and like he needs people, whereas Emerson's probably more like Reese, and
yeah,
they could be fine with staying home and be, but
right.
And I like to stay home sometimes, but Elliott, he needs that.
Emerson's like remote learning. I could do that.
She could do that. Elliott, he's a mess. It would
kill his soul to not be around people.
Yeah, and he's busy all the time, and doesn't sit still, and so it's.
Well, you're too young to remember the two that we had when we were there in Addington, but
yeah,
because I think you were 7th or 8th grade when
I was junior,
yeah. I remember. No, I'm just kidding.
I was young. I mean, I was just so young, and I look at kids now, and I'm like, God, like he's in college. Like, it's just crazy to see that whole circle, of how it. I mean, literally, life just like flies by.
It does.
It goes fast, too fast, but it just goes fast.
But so when did you find out you were pregnant with number 3? How did that?
We found out we were pregnant with Evelyn. It was around November, 2014. No, not 14. Sorry. She was 2018, like 2018.
Yeah.
So we found out around then. Were
you planning on 3? Was it a surprise?
Well, so yes and no. I would have easily had 4 kids.
Okay.
I would easily have 4 kids. Reese was like, we have 2. We've got 1 of each. Like,
right.
We don't need the package. We don't. If he's like, if we have 3, then we're playing zone and not man to man like that.
Oh my gosh!
He's like, and then it's like, and then like, what if 3 of them have stuff in different places? And I'm like, I didn't care. Like, I wanted another one.
I want 4.
Yeah. So we were gonna meet in the middle at 3. That was the plan.
Sure.
And we were going to try. Just we got pregnant way sooner than expected, but and our thing was like, well, let's have Elliott out of diapers, like before we started trying, and have them about 3 years apart. That was was our plan.
Right. Because our plans are so wonderfully made.
And you know how those go. So, and then that didn't happen. We got pregnant, and I waited probably, a week and a half before I told Reese, because I woke up one morning for church, and I was like,
I know what this feels like. I know what this.
Yeah, I was like,
you just knew.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
How am I going to tell you?
I'm like taking a pregnancy test every day. Like, I'm like, what? And so, yeah, I knew we were pregnant. And then Reese.
Ooh, I like the way you put that. I knew we were pregnant.
Yeah, I knew we were pregnant. And I told him one day, I was like, hey, I'm kind of late. And he's like thinking I was talking about work. And I'm like, no, like,
Oh, not that.
and like it didn't cross his mind again. And then I told him, I was like, like, we're pregnant. What? I'm like, yeah, like, it was anyway. So
Don't act like you don't know. Come on.
yeah. So we found out around November-ish, and then I was due July 6th with her. Yeah, so 2019.
I know with Dulcie that the first pregnancy and the second pregnancy they were different pregnancies. I mean, and we don't know if it's because one was a boy and one was a girl, and it was different with the estrogen packing on with the girl.
Yeah.
Were each of yours different? Was this one different?
So I would say my first two were pretty spot on similar. Pregnancy was really easy for me. I mean, really up with Emerson and Elliott. I was sick a little bit in the first trimester, and then it was really a breeze. I gained minimal weight. I ate what I wanted. I could do what I want. Like, you're the people that people want to hate, during pregnancy. I was the person people hated. Like, I loved, even prior to being pregnant with Evelyn, I had told Reese, we had talked about me being a surrogate because I loved being pregnant that much. And so, like, why not help somebody else have a baby? And I mean, getting paid would be a nice added bonus.
Sure.
However, like, a pregnancy was a breeze for me. Delivery was like with Emerson and Elliott. Even with Evelyn, my first trimester, same scenario, a little bit of morning sickness. And then in the beginning, it was really easy. And toward the end of my pregnancy, well, really, like, her pregnancy was way harder on me physically than anything I could imagine. And the main reason was because of her diagnosis, she couldn't swallow. So I retained all the amniotic fluid.
Oh, wow.
So physically, like, I was huge. I was in physical pain all the time.
Okay.
And because she couldn't swallow, and she was tiny, but like my stomach measured, it could measure 8 weeks ahead of where I was.
Wow.
Because of all the fluid. So I had nerve problems, and it was just a lot of physical.
Sure.
It was physically, aside from everything else, it was physically hard on me.
So you're aware you're pregnant in November.
Yeah.
Tell me about diagnosis day.
Yeah. So February 11th, 2019, it was your normal 20 week anatomy scan. Normal. We're both going to work that day.
Sure.
We met. We drove separate vehicles, met at the same place we had our ultrasound for Elliott to do our anatomy scan. Literally at that point, everything was a breeze for me. So that up to that point, like, physically, there was no signs that anything wasn't normal. And so, and it's our third at this point. So it's just like, it's just like, I'm used, like, this is my third one. I know the routine. I know what's going on. Like, things went by a little bit quicker. And so we had our ultrasound that morning. And, I mean, I remember it taking, looking back now, didn't realize it then, but I remember things that happened that just aren't normal. Like, so I know this is crazy. I'm like a planner. So, like, we found out what our kids were, period. Well, for Evelyn, we had decided, let's let it be a surprise. Like, it's our last one.
Sure.
Let's not find out what we're having. So we went in telling her, like, hey, if you could just put it in an envelope, what we're having, in case I caved, where we don't want to know what we're having. That was the plan. Right. And so the ultrasound, it took longer, but, like, I mean, we watched it, but there was nothing that we saw, but we were also, like, oblivious to that, I guess, at this point. And so she told us, hey, I'm going to go grab the other sonographer, she said, I want to double check. I want to make 100% sure on the gender. She said, I'm pretty sure I know, but I just want I want another set of eyes.
Do you think she saw something else and was hiding it?
Yeah, no, yeah. That's why she went and got somebody else, because of what she saw, to make sure that and at the time I was like, okay, like, whatever. And so the other lady came in, which she actually did my ultrasound with Elliott and my first one with Evelyn when everything was normal. And so she did it, and they were like, okay, we've got what we need. I'll be right back. I'm going to go print this and bring it back. So both of them leave, and then we waited. What I felt like was forever, longer than it was supposed to.
Wow.
And then our first sonographer came back in with a doctor, and so told us to sit down, and he just told us that he called my OB, and they've got to send us to a neonatal specialist, because there were abnormalities with the brain development of the baby. And then that was it. Like we sat, I mean, they told us, like, take as much time as you need. They gave us the envelope with the gender, because at this point we still hadn't found out what we were having.
Right.
And then they left. And then we waited there for a little while before we left. So.
What was your initial reaction to what they said?
It's so. Sorry, I gotta turn this phone off. I think we both there's no way.
Right.
And I mean, we cried a lot. I mean, what does it mean? We at that point we still had no idea,
right,
what it meant for us.
Yeah.
And what it meant for Evelyn, we just didn't know at that point. So, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. It is the truth. And so eventually we left and went and sat in the car, and I don't know, we really didn't know what to do.
Right.
I guess. So we actually decided that, we were talking, we sat in the car and we talked, and before we called my mom and his mom, we talked about it and decided that, okay, well, if we're gonna pray for a miracle and believe that God's gonna heal this baby, then we're gonna find out what it is. The baby's gonna have a name.
Yep.
It will have an identity. And so we opened the envelope and found out we were having a girl, and we called my mom and called his mom, and then went home. We didn't go, and before 2 minutes down the road, my OB was out of the office that day, but her partner OB called and got us into a specialist that day. So we had an appointment that afternoon at another doctor. So
you're told there's brain development issues
initially, yeah, until we talked to a specialist.
Okay.
Because basically they need 40 ultrasound machines to really know what it. I'm sure they knew what it was, but
but they wanted to be sure.
He's not in the position to diagnose it. That's not his job.
So you see a specialist that afternoon.
Yep. Saw Dr. Smith that afternoon. Gosh, they did tons of ultrasounds and pictures, and 10 fingers, 10 toes, a heart, everything's healthy but her head. She has no brain. And so there's where your brain should, and looking back now, seeing what we saw, it makes sense. We realize it now, but you just don't know. We had no idea. So the doctor came in and did some more ultrasounds and gave us our diagnosis and told us, I guess, what our prognosis was, our outcome.
Which was terminal.
Oh yeah, yeah. There, she just said like their frontal lobe. She had anencephaly, and she had anencephaly with an epiphyseal. So anencephaly is just the frontal lobe, your skull. It doesn't develop,
Oh my.
so no brain develops. So it's just fluid where their brain is. And you know, she's alive and healthy, other than not having a brain, because I'm keeping her.
Right.
She's umbilical cord, and she had the second part of her diagnosis was an epiphyseal, and it's just like her brain tissue tried to form outside of her head.
Oh.
So she had just a small, like a little protrusion of brain tissue that the skin eventually formed around, but she had no frontal skull. She had no lobe. So
you're 20 weeks.
Yep. So I'm right at 19, 20 weeks. And I mean, there's like, it's terminal. If we even made it, like, I mean, she just told us, like there's, it's terminal. She has no brain. Like I mean, she didn't say any of these words, but essentially like, yeah, she'll die. And she just kind of told us that, we had options at this point.
Sure.
What we wanted to do. And
what were your options at this point?
Well, I mean, really the only option is to carry or terminate. Like those are your,
right.
That's it.
Well, and I assumed as much that it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you chose to carry her.
Yeah, without a doubt. Was
that a hard decision to make?
No.
Okay.
No.
Why?
Why not? Like, why would I terminate? Like, why would I? We sat there. Okay, so go back, rewind. 2017.
Okay.
I'm standing in my coworker's office. She's reading this article. So I'm a Thunder fan. So I follow all the Thunder people.
Yeah, you live in Oklahoma.
On Twitter. And I remember her pulling up this article from the Today Show, and she said, "Hey, come read this." Tammy did. And she said, "These people are from Oklahoma, and their daughter has something, and they're on the Today Show." So we read the article. I'll never forget standing there thinking, we read the article of some people from Oklahoma. Their daughter had the same diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And they were a lot more open about it while they were pregnant, and he worked for ESPN. So once it went to internet, it went viral.
Sure.
And they were on the Today Show, and I remember standing behind Tammy reading the article, and I read it and I was like, oh, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Like if something like that ever happened to me, I would carry for sure. And so fast forward to 2019, February, we're sitting in Dr. Smith's office, and she gave us the diagnosis and left. And I got on my phone and I Googled Royce Young because I knew it was. Because I told Reese, I said, I think I know, I've read a story where someone has the same diagnosis. And they were going to try to donate her eyes, or donate her organs, and they ended up getting to donate her eyes. So Dr. Smith leaves. I think she goes and calls my OB because she didn't really know what kind of person I was. Like, if we would choose, like, the abortion statistic, it's like 95%. They're really high. I mean, it's really hard. Like, I don't say that lightly. Like, it's what I went through, what Reese and I went through is not easy. So I don't judge anyone for choosing to terminate. Like, it's for some people it could be a hard decision. For us, it was not a hard decision. So she came back in, and I told her, I was like, well, I'm not, unless it's going to kill me, I'm not having an abortion, period. Right. And I asked her, I said, well, can we donate her organs? And she just kind of looked at us, and I was like, it can be done. Like, I knew it could be done. So she was like, well, I can get you in contact with someone from LifeShare of Oklahoma, because there are certain parameters like she has to meet to be able to do stuff like that. And that was that was it.
Yeah.
I
It wasn't a
mean,
decision. It was like just this
yeah,
is
I mean, yeah, and crazy enough, I'm friends with Carrie today. We, I mean, we're friends today, and I mean, I'll never forget the day I stood there and thought, oh, without a doubt, I would carry my
yeah.
baby. Why wouldn't I? Like, just, I mean,
Yeah.
so that was, yeah, that was the decision we make, and we didn't tell a lot of people.
Yeah.
Very few people knew that Evelyn was sick. We chose to just tell a select handful of people. So,
And without drawing this out too far, um, you went to term. How did you make it?
I made it to 32 weeks and 5 days.
Okay.
My water broke. Now my stomach was measuring like 42 weeks. So,
Right.
my water broke. I was
Yeah.
actually in a meeting with the lady from LifeShare, and my water broke, and she left, and I walked out, and I called her to come back. I called Reese, and we had a baby that day. So,
You got
and
you got 25 minutes.
20. Yep, she was born. Yep, she was born at 1:30 and died at 1:50. And so, I mean, really, we were told like the trauma and stress from childbirth, like don't we were not anticipating her to be born alive. We had prepared for her not to be born alive because the stress that children go that they bear during childbirth is a lot, even for a healthy baby.
Right.
So for a sick child like ours,
Yes.
we were completely prepared to not have an alive baby when she was
Right.
born.
Right.
She was born alive. She was 2 pounds, 12 ounces.
Mm.
Literally everything was perfect except her head. She had the same lips, the same nose, the same ears, fingers, toes as Emerson and Elliott. Everything but her head. So she had hair, a lot of it, a lot of dark hair, and my other
Yeah.
two kids were blonde when they
Oh
came out.
wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, I mean, more than we could have imagined happening. Like, we were extremely grateful for that she was born alive. We were super fortunate because that's not always the case. Yeah.
Now I have watched your life from Facebook basically.
Yeah.
We don't talk a lot. I think you and Dulcie
Yeah.
have talked more than you and I have over the years.
Yeah.
But I've been so proud to see how you've grown in your faith and how you follow Jesus. But this has got to have been the most difficult thing for any person to go through. How did Jesus get you through it? How has your faith made any difference in this?
Yeah. So, you know that term like lukewarm Christian?
Yeah,
Like I could easily have been in that category.
sure.
Like, and then this happened, and it's like we don't do drugs. We don't we don't we don't do bad stuff. We're not criminals. We're not having 15 kids that go into this, like out of all people that this is going to happen to, um it happens to us. And there were different things, like at that point I think that whole term, like you're either cold or you're hot. Like
Hmm.
lukewarm is such a, that's really not, like
Right.
you're not lukewarm. You're either cold or you're hot. Like
Okay.
you're either in it or you're not. That's the way I feel about it. And then now that's how I feel about it. So there were things that happened throughout the pregnancy that just like, they just don't, I don't, they just, there's no way all this stuff happened as coincidences. Like, we truly feel like these little things that happen, like God took care of all of it, all the little details that we could have never, I don't know how to respond to that we could have never thought about. Like, God took care of all those details. And when we chose not to tell a lot of people, which I'd mentioned, and we did that because I think when you tell people sad stuff, their first reaction, whether they're going to do it or not, or whether they're believers or not, we're praying for you.
Right.
But like, are you really? And
Right. Sure.
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
Was guilty of it. If I don't say it anymore, or if I say it, I truly mean it. And so we didn't want to be coddled. I didn't want people to,
Right.
like, I didn't need that. Like, we wanted people in our corner that were really going to fervently pray, like, either God's going to heal our daughter here,
Hmm.
or he's going to heal her in heaven.
Yeah.
She's going to change the world. Like, she's going to be able to do something. And that's what we prayed. Like, ideally, I would have loved for him,
Yeah.
and I bargained, like,
Sure. Sure.
like, take me, like,
Yeah.
I'll gladly,
Yeah.
I'll die if you can just keep her here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not real. I am public about some things, but I just feel like, there's this. I was listening to this book and I heard her say, "Nobody rides free." Okay, and what I mean by that is, like, when I would ask God, I'm not mad at God. I just really wish that, like,
Sure.
why me? And there was a point in my life where he said, well, why not you? And so, like, why am I any different than anybody else? Just because I'm a believer, just because we go to church, we raise our kids in church, we do the right things. Like, nope, it doesn't matter if I'm a good person. Like that, it doesn't. In the end of the day, if you're a good person, that's great. But if you're not, like, transformed spiritually, you're not going. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So why am I any different than anybody else? Why should I get out of jail free card to not have stuff like this happen to me?
What a tremendous thought.
And so, I mean, God just was like, well, why not you? So, I mean, if this happened, then this happened for somebody's life, I hope and pray
Right.
would be changed. So,
How has Evelyn changed the world?
well, we did get to donate. She wasn't big enough, but we did get to donate organs for research.
Okay.
So we donated like nine different organs, for research. I think she's, there's such a difference. Like, I think people don't know how to have empathy now. That I don't know that it's something. I think like, sympathy and empathy are so different. Like,
Mhm.
and I think empathetic people, I think sometimes are few and far between. And I think it's something that you have to stop and think about, being empathetic.
Right.
And I really feel like our kids, Emerson's, because she's older, like, like, being more empathetic towards just people and just life. And like life's hard and it sucks, but there's no reason that it shouldn't happen to us. And so, I mean, I got sick after I had her, but without her, we could have possibly not found out how severe my stuff was. And I think it's that whole, like, don't go to bed mad, don't, like, I think you truly, it's like, you figure out what really is important. Like, all those small things, like, don't matter. They really don't, because, I mean, who cares? Like, I don't know. It's just probably, and I'm not like super prior, like, vulnerable person. So I think there are things that have happened that have just kind of, if I don't know if I can just, I guess, change somebody else's decision, whether they're going to have a sick kid or not, on to have an abortion. Like, don't do that. Like, put them up for adoption. Like,
Right.
so give somebody else this life of
Mhm.
care, of giving that child a chance. And, like, I also really want people to know, like, I'm not mad at God. Like, think about it. He let his son die, and he could have, he had the choice, like, he could have stopped it.
Right.
Like, he already knew this was going to happen. Like, So it's like God's like, well, don't come at me with this. Like, I already know,
Right.
but I did that for I did that for people that could care less
Yeah.
about him at this point. So I just like, God is good. Circumstances are not. Things happen that are bad, but that doesn't mean that God's bad. And it doesn't mean that he's not still good.
How else has God revealed himself to you through this?
Um, you know, I think that whole, like, really, like, leave it at the feet of Jesus, that term of, like, really,
What does that mean for you?
well, like, before, probably not like it does now. Like, really, I mean, like that it's okay to be mad, or like literally, like, if you're he already just, it's okay to tell him and express that, you're mad or you're angry at him, or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, like, he loves you, he loves us. He didn't do this to be mean. He didn't allow it to happen to be harmful, or to make our life more difficult. But somewhere in this, we'll maybe get that aha moment one day of like, well, this is why. Like, this is why we were able to go through this, and
Mm-hmm.
why he chose us. I don't have any idea, because there are tons of other people that he could have chosen,
Right.
but he chose us to go through this, and I don't know why.
Right. Or at least not yet.
Not right today. I don't. Yeah, and the divorce rates are like sky high for people who
Sure.
lose children.
Right.
I get it. I can totally understand that. So I just think that, I think it's okay to have everybody grieves differently, but I think at the end of the day, like, we're still on the same we're still in the same car together, like, we're still going the same way, and
Right.
it's just doing it a little differently. So
For anyone that might be on the fence about faith because they've been hurt, or they have anger or grief, what would you tell them?
um well, that it's okay to be mad,
Yeah.
and it's okay to question, like, but like, the only way I can go see my daughter again is to be in heaven.
Yeah.
I won't see her any other way if I'm not a believer. And but more than that, like, we've tried to look at, like, all the different things that have happened throughout the last year and a half. Like, God took care of every little small detail about stuff that there's just no way all these things can be coincidences, and we truly are grateful and fortunate that we were able to be her parents and meet her for 20 minutes, and, like, that could have not happened. I could have had a
Right.
miscarriage, or tons of other things would happen. And I don't think that I truly, God doesn't do things to be mean. He doesn't allow things because it's like, well, you used to drink too much, so I think you're going to pay for
Sure.
that today. Like, that's not
Sure.
how he works. And I'm no better than anybody else. So
Right.
when he told me, like, well, why not you? Like, you're right. I'm no better than anybody else. So God loves us all, and his son wouldn't have died if he didn't. So
How will your life never be the same because of this?
yeah, a lot has changed. Like, I can't have any more kids, because I got blood clots, and have a severe clotting disorder, which we wouldn't have known about without Evelyn. I mean, essentially, she saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I was extremely ill, and I think, like, for me, there will always be this part of me that wants, longs, needs for her to be here.
Right.
But I think it's something that it's like, you have a goal. Okay, well, here's your end goal, and how are you going to get there? And at the end of the day, it's okay. Well, it doesn't matter, I guess, how we get there, but, like, let's just be real. Like, we're going to get to heaven to meet our daughter. But, I think, I guess you could say I'm a lot more empathetic toward people and circumstances, and maybe not judging people for like the judge blind has definitely been altered, because I was, guilty of doing things like that. And so I think trying to put yourself in other people's shoes, that, walk in somebody else's shoes, and I don't know, and I guess it makes some people uncomfortable when we talk about Evelyn, but we talk about her all the time. Like, she's a part of our daily life. Like, that's just, it is what it is, and it doesn't bother me. So maybe I think for me too, like, people need to be more comfortable talking about stuff like that, because here's the reality: babies die all the time. Just because it happened, and that doesn't mean that I love her any less or don't want to talk about her any less just because she's not here.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.